The Minister of Power, Adebayo Adelabu, has tendered a public apology to Nigerians over the crippling and persistent outages witnessed in the last month, admitting the blackout has deepened hardship across homes, businesses, schools and industries amid the scorching dry season heat. The apology was delivered during a press conference on Tuesday in Abuja. It comes amid intensifying public frustration over erratic power supply, particularly as soaring temperatures across the country have increased electricity demand for cooling. Despite the current setbacks, the minister assured Nigerians that relief is imminent, given a definitive timeline for improvement in supply. Joining us on the show to discuss how the minister intends to solve the current power crisis is Adedayo Olowoni, Chief Technical Advisor to the Honourable Minister of Power. Good morning. Most welcome to the morning show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Mr. Olowoni, I assume that you are here to give us further clarifications on the apology tendered by the Minister of Power, which we discussed yesterday. And we argued, I did, others did, that an apology is not enough. There are many Nigerians who probably would not accept that apology. But you are in the room. You are the Chief Technical Advisor. So maybe you can shed more light on this committee idea that will be monitoring gas supplies, CEPLAT going to finish working on its infrastructure within the next 2 weeks, and how we will get back to about 6,000 megawatts in 2 weeks. As Chief Technical Advisor, tell us this magic, so that we can start celebrating from this morning that electricity is on its way and hope is coming.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much for having me on the show. I think, first of all, I'd like to start with the apology from the Honourable Minister, which we believe is all about taking leadership in the sector. So, of course, there's been some specific challenges in the last 2-3 weeks, and it was just important to take a leadership perspective and appreciate the fact that, the poor supply is actually impacting the lives of Nigerians. And that was why the Honourable Minister apologized. Not necessarily directly his fault for the challenges that we have, but as the Minister of Power, he just took, it was the right leadership step to say, okay, I take ownership of this issue and I'm going to prefer a solution that would ensure power supply comes back in the shortest available time. As you alluded, the minister indicated that within the next 2 weeks, power supply would come back. Like I indicated yesterday as well on the show, that 75% of power generation in Nigeria is gas, and one of the major gas pipelines in Nigeria was undergoing maintenance, and gradually that process is being completed. We're sure that within the next 2 weeks, full gas pressure will be back on the gas pipelines, and the power plant will be able to get enough gas at least to go back to their level of generation that they had in the last 2 to 3 months. So we're very confident about that. I would already say that from yesterday, we would have gradually started to see some improvement as the pressure on the pipeline gradually starts to build up, and we will see continuous improvement over the next couple of weeks.
All right, Mr. Olowoni, I hear you, but this apology is a bit, it actually sparks or further proves the incompetence of the Ministry of Power. Because the reason you've given to us this morning is that there was maintenance on the gas pipelines. Were you aware that the maintenance will happen?
No, absolutely. And actually, from our agency, Nigerian Independent System Operator, they had already gone out publicly in the last 2 to 3 weeks to indicate that the reason why power generation is low is because there's maintenance on one of the major gas pipelines in Nigeria, and which is then impacting directly the generation capacity. I mean, the reality, I wouldn't say it reeks of inability from the Ministry of Power, because Ministry of Power is also not responsible for the gas infrastructure. It is the Ministry of Petroleum Gas that is responsible. We're working very closely with them. I think part of the issue in Nigeria infrastructure is the fact that where you don't have commercially viable structure, you are not able to have alternatives, right? The reality is that if this pipeline should be going down in a value chain that is commercially viable, there will be an alternative pipeline. But today, that's not the case in Nigeria, because the commercial viability and the sustainability that we have doesn't allow for robust infrastructure.
Okay, the reason I asked you is that a lot of times what we hear from the ministry are excuses, reasons, whys, and what it means to the Nigerian people. What we are hearing is you will not get power. There will not be power. And the purpose is to fix the challenge, not to come to tell us what the problem, which a lot of us already know about. So what is the reason for, you say grid collapses have happened under his tenure, multiple grid collapses. We've also highlighted what the causes are, and he will say, okay, it's not the fault. So it means that there's nothing, his hands are tied. There's nothing he can do. Maybe someone else should come in who might be able to give a solution to these problems that are obvious, rather than coming to tell Nigerians what the challenges are, which we can see, and giving apologies when what people want are results. Are we going to be able to get results under his tenure?
No, obviously, and we have had results, but I'll go to the grid collapse that you indicated. If you go by data and actually look at the number of grid collapses annually before the Honorable Minister took over, it's actually reduced the rate of grid collapse. I think sometimes, of course, the way we look at things, we look at just the immediate, and we're not actually looking at the trajectory of how the improvement has been coming. And I can tell you that in the last 2 years, we've recorded the highest peak of generation. We've recorded the highest average generation. We've recorded the highest average distribution consumption of energy. And there was significant stability in electricity, I'll say, until the last sort of 2 to 3 months. So again, I think we should not just look at the immediate issue and use that to contextualize the entire 3 years that the minister has been there. We have made actually a lot of significant improvements that was actually, applauded quite a lot earlier, that, there's a lot of energy on band A, there's too much energy and things like that. But this specific issue is an isolated issue that is definitely related to gas infrastructure. And the only way to resolve these types of issues is more investment in gas infrastructure, a more sustainable power sector that would ensure that gas companies are willing to invest more to ensure sustainable supply of gas down the road. But I assure you that a lot of the strategy and the implementation that the Honorable Minister has driven through the Ministry of Power have already shown a lot of significant improvement. And that's why I can say that when this type of shortage comes in, people actually feel it more, because they've actually seen a level of stability in the past where power supply has been good. And then when it goes down like this, it is very, very difficult for people to adjust as well, especially with the sweltering heat that we have at the moment.
Okay. Is that the reason why you people have not paid the GENCOs all this while, the legacy debts? Is that the reason why the 6,000 promised megawatts we have not there? And you said something that makes me baffled if you live in Nigeria. You said Band A are getting power. We don't get power in Band A. Let Band A people tell you they are blues. You will run away from here. And you say we should be celebrating that there are less grid collapse. Should there even be grid collapse in the first place?
No, I didn't say...
No, you said we've done better.
I didn't say we should celebrate.
No, you said, okay, this was what you said. When Ayo talked about grid collapse, you said that if you look at it, the grid collapse have become less. So you use that as a counter reaction to the fact that the narrative of the grid collapse, should there even be grid collapse at all? Should you even come here to boldly say that the grid collapse have become less so if we are able to get our system right?
No, absolutely.
Till today, You have not paid the Gencos. Till today, a lot of them, the grid cannot take a lot of power. We have installed capacity of over 13,000. But if you load it up the grid, there's just only little the grid can take. So you have all of that problems. And the next thing, you came here to tell us that everything is not really the fault of this. So who should we blame? We should blame Rufai Hosseini and Ayo and Dr. Abati, because the state of... It's the minister who will blame now. So... Please, I think what you first said, I think you should reverse it. Real quickly. Reverse it. Apologize to the Nigerian people fully. Let the minister still continue the apology, because there's a lot to grind on about this morning, my brother. So let's start answering.
Good. So let me go back to what you...
The non-payment of the Gencos, the gas bill.
I will go back to, you've made a lot of comments.
Yes.
You've made a lot of comments, and I would like to respond to them.
Very good.
Of course, we don't want to see further grid collapse. But what you have to find out is, how do you make progress? And it's a gradual process in fixing the energy issues in Nigeria. We have to go on a journey to fixing these issues. There is no silver bullet to fixing the energy issues in Nigeria. It will be a process. These challenges have been built over time and will be resolved over time. And that's why I was just trying to make a clarity that, yes, there is still grid collapse, but if you see, the rate of the grid collapse is reducing, which means that right things are being done. And that is the only way to eventually eliminate it. It's not just a silver bullet. And then when you talk about the level of capacity that we have, available capacity of generation of 13 to 14,000 megawatts, and the fact that we only generate often between 4,500 to 5,500. There are lots of issues. It's not just technical, it's also commercial. And you've alluded to it. There's a debt overhang of about 6 trillion naira, which Mr. President graciously approved 4 trillion. This debt overhang didn't come from this administration or even the last one. It's a legacy debt also from 2015, which has been created by the unsustainable tariffs that we have in the market historically. Now, we're gradually trying to resolve the tariff issue, because if you don't resolve the tariff issue, you are always going to have a debt overhang forever in Nigeria. Now, cost of generation, cost of distribution, cost of transmission, all these costs must be absorbed in a tariff structure. Today, we don't have that. Mr. President approved the 4 trillion payment, and an initial bond issuance has been done, which is about 500 billion, which is going to be disbursed in the next week. There's another second tranche of 720 billion, which is going to start in April. And once that issuance is done, it will then be distributed. And then you have 2 more debt issuance. But that only solves a short-term problem.
No, wait a minute.
The long-term fix.
No, how many totally are these issues? Will they clear the over 6 trillion legacy debts? And this was how you promised this government. When I say you, this was how this government promised the Gencos last year, and they didn't fulfill the promise. They didn't get anything. Secondly, you said it's not 6. That's what the Gencos said.
But it's still the same process.
No, this Gencos said it's over 6 trillion now.
That's why you need to listen.
That's what the Gencos said.
Correct. It's a 4 trillion legacy. Yeah, 4 trillion legacy.
But it has gone up to over 6 trillion now. That's what the Gencos said.
I agreed, because every month there is a subsidy shortfall of 180 billion a month. We know that. And that's why I'm saying that, even approving payment of the 4 trillion and going through that process is just addressing an issue at a point in time. There's still a structural issue of the fact that we are only paying consumers only pay 40% of the energy cost they consume. And that is still an issue that has to be resolved, because an energy sector must be sustainable. Without that sustainability, you will always have these legacy issues, liability issues, debt issues, which would ensure that the sector continues to be inefficient. So that's what I'm trying to clarify. That yes, and it's going to continue increasing, except we do something on the tariff structure that is going to allow us to cover more of the cost of energy supply in the value chain.
Before I come to you, so why did you promise people that when they get on Bande and pay more, they'll get more power, and they're not getting the power today, if you know that this thing is ongoing? Because people feel like we're scammed. You promise heaven and earth on Bande. People got on Bande and nothing happened.
No, that's not. No, that's not true. So if you look at when we implemented Band A, we could actually show you trajectorily the increase in energy supply and energy offtake. And that is why we had the peaks. And that is why we had average generation increase from about 4,200 to about 4,800. And these are facts, because the distribution companies were taking more energy and supplying
the lives of the people.
And supplying.
People are not getting power.
Mr. Rufai, can I finish? Because you've asked me a question. And that's the way that because the infrastructure today cannot just 100% supply everybody electricity. There is so much significant amount of infrastructure deficit that we have in our value chain. And what we have to do is to see how we can gradually address this infrastructure deficit in a sustainable manner that allows recovery of cost and then allows additional energy to be supplied gradually to the whole country. There is no silver bullet to fixing the problem of electricity that we have in Nigeria.
Mr. Olowoni, very quickly. You are the Chief Technical Advisor of the Ministry of Power.
Yes.
Are you willing to stake your reputation to go with the Minister of Power to say that in 2 weeks' time, as promised by the Minister, we will have 6,000 megawatts of electricity that will be delivered? Because the Minister said they will fix generation, fix transmission, fixed distribution, all in 2 weeks. Both of you, I think, are accountants.
No.
And you are the Chief Technical Officer. Can you stake your reputation as an accountant and Chief Technical Officer that we will have electricity? That's one. Two, very quickly, gas supply, which is a major issue. 70% of our electricity generation is based on gas. And Nigeria is a gas country. Are we importing gas? Is a problem with gas importation? Briefly.
No. So I would like to address your first comment that what the minister said is within 2 weeks, we'll be able to restore the level of energy generation that we've had before the current issues. And what he said about the 6,000 megawatts, that by the end of the year, that he expects that the 6,000 megawatts will be able to be delivered. I think saying that I'm an accountant, I have over 25 years of experience in the energy sector across the value chain. So I am definitely enough to be an authority in this area to explain, some of the challenges and to support, the ministry in definitely what we're doing. When you go to the gas supply, the issue of gas supply is the fact that most of our gas in Nigeria is associated gas, which means that it comes from crude production. We haven't been able to develop the right commercial framework to develop non-associated gas because there is not yet a commercial framework because, for example, power consumes the most domestic supply of gas. But yet, power is the one that owes most of the gas companies a lot of debt because the value chain is unable to pay for the cost of gas at this point in time. So that is often what affects the infrastructure. That is often what affects the gas companies from having the ability to develop more wells and process more gas. And we're not importing gas. Actually, we are exporting gas. And sometimes that also comes with its own challenges because the international market, you would get, if you're a gas company, you're able to get more selling your gas internationally or exporting your gas compared to selling to domestic consumers, especially the power sector, that doesn't pay its bills and also has a domestic supply obligation at a lower price. So we don't actually import gas. We're a gas country, but we don't have a lot of our gas processed. We don't have a lot of our wells drilled. And that's the thing. So you can have all these assets under the ground, but until we have the right commercial framework to drill the gas and process the gas and transport it to where it's required commercially at a good price, then you can be a gas country without getting the benefit of the gas. So again, and we have a lot of industrial customers also consuming gas, and they also pay much more than the power sector. So again, and that's why I keep talking about sustainability and ensuring commercial viability of the sector. Because if we are a commercially viable sector in the power sector, the gas companies will be willing to supply by gas.
Okay, Mr.
Because
Olowoniyi.
power is still the largest consumer of gas.
Okay, Mr. Olowoniyi, thank you very much. We wanted you to shed light. We hope that there will be light at the end of the tunnel. Thank you very much indeed.